Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Janae Norman. Here are the top 5 things to know this Thursday. Number 1, President Trump is announcing a new immigration plan today.
Under this new proposal, priority for visas would be given to highly skilled workers, applicants with higher education, and those with English proficiency.
Critics say there's one big glaring omission from the plan: how to address the 11 million undocumented immigrants already here in the U.S.
Number 2, the growing questions about the reported threat against U.S. forces from Iran.
The State Department is defending its decision to evacuate all non-essential embassy employees from neighboring Iraq. U.S. officials say they're not rushing into a conflict, insisting it would be an act of negligence if they fail to take precautions.
Congressional leaders will be briefed about the Iranian threat today after lawmakers in both parties demanded more information from the White House. ABC's Martha Raddatz has more.
This ordered departure from the U.S. Embassy in Iraq really is unusual. I've spent time in that Baghdad embassy during a very violent period when ISIS was launching rockets at the facility. But this is the first time I remember the State Department ever ordering a departure of personnel from that embassy. So a lot of questions about what led them to do that.
A British commander said he sees nothing unusual pertaining to threats. Overnight, Iran's foreign minister said his country is committed to an international nuclear deal, but he called the escalating U.S. sanctions unacceptable.
On to number 3 now, a new twist in the college admissions scandal.
A student who was expelled from Georgetown University is now suing, claiming he didn't know that his father paid $400,000 in bribes to get him into the school. He claims his rights have been violated. Number 4, parents may soon be able to diagnose their kids' ear infections without going to the doctor.
Researchers say they've developed an app that can detect ear infections. The app connects a paper funnel that attaches to your phone.
The funnel uses the phone's microphone and speaker to detect fluid buildup in the ear, a symptom of an ear infection. The company says it's now waiting for FDA approval.
And finally, number 5, buying silence. Next time you take an Uber, you'll be able to guarantee a quiet ride, but it's going to cost you extra.
The company is now offering a quiet preferred option in its app, which will tell your driver you don't want to chat. It's only being offered for premium rides.
Quiet button, quiet button.
There's so much to talk about, though.
I guess I didn't pay enough.
It's Morning America. Why would she ever want to silence me? I bring her joy.
So much joy, but I could never get lucky enough to have a silence button.
And we know the rideshare drivers just need to take the cues from the passengers.
Right. Sometimes they're just being so chatty, and you're like
one word answer, then you know. But if you chat back, then yeah, let's talk.
Chat back.
So that's our question of the day. How do you like your rideshare? Quiet. You like to chat?
Warm.
Tell us in the comments or tweet at ABC News Live.
Yeah. We'll get right to some breaking news. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is set to announce his 2020 presidential bid in a YouTube video before making an appearance on Good Morning America. You can see that right here on ABC News Live later this morning. The central theme of de Blasio's campaign will be working people first.
Now to that big story, the new battle over abortion. Alabama's governor has now signed the country's most restrictive abortion measure. It makes an exception only when the mother's life is in danger. People on both sides of the issue are now bracing for a legal fight.
ABC's Trevor Ault has more on what's next. Trevor, we've been following this the last couple of days, and this is really just heating up.
Yeah, it really is just starting to get going. Janae and Kenneth, good morning to both of you. There was some questions yesterday. Would Alabama's Governor Kay Ivey sign this? We now know that those protests in Birmingham and far beyond it did not deter her. She has officially signed this, which means 6 months from now, it's scheduled to go into effect. Now, what this law specifies, it is, as you said, the most restrictive abortion law in America. It means essentially when a woman learns she is pregnant in Alabama, once this law takes hold, it becomes illegal for a doctor to perform an abortion. It's a Class A felony. That means the doctor could face 10 to 99 years in prison for performing an abortion. The only exception if there is a serious health risk to the mother. There's no exception in cases of rape. There's no exception in cases of incest. And naturally, there are several promises from organizations saying they are going to challenge the legality of this new law. The ACLU says it's unconstitutional. They said that it targets victims of rape and incest. But the authors of this bill knew this was going to get challenged words, they're kind of almost hoping for it because they believe with the new conservative majority on the Supreme Court, President Trump appointing Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, they think that Roe versus Wade, that 1973 landmark ruling that granted nationwide abortion rights, they think that it can now be overturned. So this may be even more aggressive than just abortion rights and trying to limit it in Alabama. They are setting their sights on a nationwide movement.
And Trevor, this is obviously getting a lot of attention nationwide. You've got Glamour magazine that is showing the 25 white men who basically voted for this. No women voted to support this.
Right.
But then you've also got even a staunch conservative, Pat Robertson, saying that this law may go too far.
Yeah, Pat Robertson, surprisingly, I mean, he's a very staunch conservative, and he is against abortion, but even he said that this law is kind of extreme. He thinks that it goes too far, not necessarily because he thinks that women should have some abortion rights. He thinks that the Supreme Court won't overrule Roe versus Wade with this. So it's kind of playing the long game or the chess match of trying to overturn Roe versus Wade. But it is interesting to see Pat Robertson agree with people that are more liberal. There is a massive movement, especially on social media. We're seeing so many prominent women who are sharing stories of their abortions. They're using the hashtag #YouKnowMe, trying to highlight the fact that a lot of women have these procedures. A lot of them have relied on them, and they are grateful for the lives that they've been able to live because of that procedure, really trying to say how common they are. And people who have studied abortions have highlighted that as well. The Guttmacher Institute has studied abortions. They say 1 in 4 American women will have an abortion before they turn 45. The lead researcher said it's a common procedure, and it does seem like a lot of Americans support at least some form of abortion rights for women. We know that polls say 70% of Americans don't want Roe versus Wade overturned. But of course, now it depends on what state you live in. We're hearing in Alabama from doctors, the few of them who do perform abortion procedures, they say they're scared. They say their patients are now scared too. We talked with Dr. Yashika Robinson. Here's what she had to say.
There's a general sense of confusion and alarm. Women are concerned about whether they're still going to be able to access abortions at this time. Our phones have been ringing off the hook with women calling, just want to know if we are still open. We're telling them that we are still here. Abortions are still available in Alabama, and that we are working to make sure that it continues to stay that way.
So again, just to kind of set the calendar for this law, just because it was signed yesterday doesn't mean it is immediately in effect. The calendar is 6 months down the road, so that would be November when this law would take effect. But of course, it has all of these legal challenges set up, so it's possible that we don't even get to that point, and we just have to watch it rise through the courts until eventually, likely, the Supreme Court will decide whether or not it can stand.
And it will definitely rise. Trevor Ault, thank you for breaking it down for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Well, next to the White House, where President Trump is announcing a new immigration plan today. He's calling for sweeping changes, but Democrats say he's ignoring the most critical issue. President Trump insists it would be easy to overhaul the nation's immigration system.
Tremendous problems are caused at the southern border, from drugs to the wrong people being allowed to come in because of a corrupt and broken system that can be changed in 20 minutes.
In a speech in the Rose Garden today, he's expected to outline a new immigration plan focusing on 2 key issues: border security and legal citizenship. Not changing the number of green cards given out each year, which will stay at 1.1 million, despite a push from some Republicans for a dramatic reduction. Under this new proposal, priority for visas would be given to highly skilled workers, applicants with higher education, and those with English proficiency.
I don't think most countries are giving us their finest. Do you agree? And that's what's happening. And it's causing tremendous problems with crime.
The White House says this will increase diversity among immigrants in the U.S., but did not provide evidence to back up that claim. Critics say there's one big glaring omission from the plan: how to address the 11 million undocumented immigrants already here in the U.S. In the meantime, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is rolling out his own immigration bill. Graham's proposal would require asylum applicants from Central America to apply for asylum in their respective countries. The bill would also allow for unaccompanied children from those countries to be deported from the U.S.
No matter how high the wall will be built, no matter how many drones you have, no matter how many agents you put at the border, they'll keep coming because they want to get caught.
As for President Trump's plan, one administration official said, quote, "We want to show the country that Republicans are not against immigrants, but it faces an uphill battle with passage in Congress, highly unlikely."
President Trump has opposed Democrats' plan to fix the DACA program, saying that he wants to provide a comprehensive fix to the immigration system rather than address individual issues one by one. But lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are unsure that the president's new plan is comprehensive enough. ABC's Brad Milkey has more.
Hey guys, yeah, the White House has actually been pushing this on Capitol Hill for several days now. Jared Kushner gave a pitch to Senate Republicans, but that doesn't mean that Democrats or Republicans are on board with it. With the military planning to build more tent cities for migrants and TSA agents being reassigned to assist at the border, several lawmakers have asked for a comprehensive approach that checks all the controversial boxes. Now, there are 6 points to President Trump's plan, so I asked ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl if that's good enough for Congress.
It's not comprehensive. So it does not deal with the question of the undocumented immigrants that are already in the United States. It does not deal with the question of DACA and the so-called Dreamers. Doesn't address that whatsoever. But there are some things in this plan that are quite serious, and probably in a world that was a little less polarized would have support, maybe even broad support across party lines. It does things to ensure, for instance, that foreign students studying in American universities have an easier path to citizenship in the United States.
Jonathan says the logic from the White House here is more of a merit-based approach to immigration. Give green cards to skilled laborers. Meanwhile, critics are saying do not underestimate the value of unskilled workers and don't shut the door on refugees. We'll have more on President Trump's announcement on Start Here later this morning. Listen on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. Janae, Kenneth?
Our thanks to Brad there. President Trump has pardoned former media mogul Conrad Black, reportedly saying he was expunging the bad rap he got.
Black is a friend and political ally of the president who once owned the Chicago Sun-Times, the Daily Telegraph, and the Jerusalem Post. Black also wrote a flattering book about Trump. He served more than 3 years for fraud and obstruction of justice, accused of cheating his company out of $60 million. But the Supreme Court overturned most of the charges. President Trump has signed an executive order on cybersecurity, effectively banning Chinese tech giant Huawei from doing business in the United States. It's another potential blow in the trade war with China.
The directive does not name specific countries or companies, but it's a clear slap to Huawei amid concerns that it could pose an espionage threat to the U.S. The president is calling it a national economic emergency. The Commerce Department now has 5 months to come up with regulations. The nation's birth rate is now at its lowest level in 32 years. A new government report says that record low was reached because women in their teens and 20s are having fewer babies than ever.
Some experts are expressing surprise about the report's findings, particularly because of the state of the economy. They say if current trends continue, the U.S. could eventually see labor shortages.
Thousands of people showed up to honor Kendrick Castillo, the Colorado teen who sacrificed his life trying to protect classmates from 2 gunmen. Hundreds
of Jeeps lined the streets around the church as a tribute to Castillo's love for Jeeps. Inside, the people who knew him best praised Castillo's character, including one friend who said, "He died for us. Now it's time for us to live for him." Prosecutors say both shooting suspects will be tried as adults.
Now to that horrifying helicopter crash in New York City. The pilot was the only one aboard the sightseeing chopper when it crashed, spinning out of control into the Hudson River. The chopper was on its way to pick up passengers after refueling. The pilot survived and was seen standing on the chopper's flotation device. He was pulled from the water by a nearby ferry crew.
We just slowly eased our way up there. I could actually stand in position if I had to with the boat. So.
And he climbed aboard, no problem?
Oh, I called out to him. He, said okay.
We pulled him up on the ladder. I happened to bring him out to the deck. I asked him many times the same question if he was okay or he was injured or is anybody else in the helicopter. He seems to be pretty good condition, a little shaky, maybe a little nervous.
Investigators are trying to determine what caused the crash. The pilot says he felt something was wrong as he was trying to land.
Incredible images that came out of that. Glad he's okay. Well, coming up, a toddler found safe after 3 days lost in the woods.
How the 22-month-old survived in the Kentucky wilderness with no food or water. After this.
Now to a survival story in Kentucky. A 22-month-old boy has been found alive after being outside alone for almost 4 days.
He's in remarkably good condition. One of the men searching for him said, quote, "He's a true Kentucky mountain boy." This morning, a miracle rescue in Kentucky.
Yes, we have a successful finding of the child.
22-month-old Kenneth Howard found alive.
Thank you to everybody that did help us. Thank you so much.
Kenneth was in the front yard of his home on Mother's Day Sunday when his father says he turned around and the boy was gone. Search teams with drones, dogs, and choppers searched the terrain near his family's home. Then, after 3 long nights, one of the teams finally heard the boy calling for help.
Fortunately, one of the teams who has an expert tracker with them within the area heard a cry. And with the further investigation, they found the 22-month-old child.
Kenneth was wearing only sweatpants, a t-shirt, and 1 sandal. He survived overnight temperatures in the 40s. The sheriff says the boy was cold, wet, and dehydrated, but in remarkably good condition. Doctors say his age may have actually helped him survive. Unlike most adults who can go without water for only about 3 days, young children typically have more water reserves in their bodies, allowing them to survive longer in this kind of situation. Little Kenneth had wandered to a 50-foot high cliff about a quarter mile from his home. Police are still investigating exactly how he got separated from his family. He's an amazing little boy.
He absolutely is, and I could not imagine being his parents.
Right.
3 days.
It was in the name, right? Kenneth. Smart, intelligent, that's what my name means. Just wanted you to know that.
Yeah, that's what it means?
Yes.
Silence button. Silence button.
Let's check some notifications.
Starting with a strong, independent dog who don't need no man for nothing. Watch him play fetch on the slide. Oh, by himself. That was nicely written, David. Shout out to you for that.
Digital Dave behind the scenes producing this show. That was a good line.
Yeah, usually it's pretty cheesy.
We'll give you some
we
props
like that.
there.
Yeah. And tourists in Paris blown away by the Eiffel Tower. More than usual, celebrating a big anniversary, lit up the sky in the City of Lights.
Good old City of Lights, Paris. And watch this poor guy just trying to get the right angle on his work, but he welds himself in. He got his head stuck. And to that I say, job well done. He had to use a saw there to free himself.
Oh,
he's like,
goodness. Didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
And a big congratulations to this gorilla at a gender reveal party. Finding
It's a
out
boy.
It's a boy.
Did you have a gender reveal?
You were literally at my baby shower.
Denise.
What'd you say?
Denise.
Yeah, you were at my wedding,
baby.
Denise.
You guys remember that line, right? It was a viral
Meghan
phrase
McCain.
that was said, so we often say it to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't your baby shower.
Yeah, remember?
Even though she had a work baby shower that she didn't want.
I don't like all that attention. But yeah, we had the blue balloons come out.
The one at your house was fun down
Yeah,
in D.C. That was a good time.
Limited crowd.
Oh, it was a reveal. That's right.
I do remember. At my baby shower, Denise. Well, texting while walking may soon become a crime in New York.
The state Senate is considering a measure that bans walking and texting, fining offenders. Naveen Dhaliwal with our New York City affiliate has the details.
These days, it's very common to see eyes on cell phone screens no matter where you are.
I've used it all day long.
Today, I've been on my phone a total of 4 hours and 22 minutes.
Most people we saw looked up in both ways before crossing the street, then back on their phones. But what if looking at your electronic device means you could be fined when crossing the road?
It makes sense because, you want to make sure no one gets hit or But I also feel like that's too, yeah, that's too much.
If they're going to get killed crossing the street because they're not paying attention, that's their fault. I don't know why you need to legislate common sense.
Well, it might happen. While there's no clear evidence that personal electronic devices used on streets causes traffic accidents, state lawmakers are considering banning the use of messaging or playing games just on the streets. The fines could range from $50 to $150, depending on the number of offenses.
This is a bill that simply says, don't text while you're crossing the street. Wait the 10 seconds, get to the other side of the street.
Now, similar laws have been passed in smaller cities in Hawaii and California, but this is New York with millions of people. So if this law passes, the big question is, how is it going to be enforced?
It's a statewide law, so depending on the municipality, it could be the police, it could be other law enforcement officers.
That's what some say. However, drivers want the law passed.
I'm driving down the street and someone is not paying attention and they get hit by a car. Who's going to get sued? The driver.
On the Upper West Side, Naveen Dhaliwal, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
I just put down my phone. I was
Yeah,
actually,
I was going to say, wait, we should have had
I'll go ahead and finish this. Yeah. I just think that I'm guilty, I will admit that, but I also have a very good sense of when I'm doing something on my phone. I know my surroundings.
People always think they have a very good sense until they get hit by a car. That's the whole thing.
I will not get hit by a car.
I hope not. I hope not.
But
pay attention.
People should put the phones down, pay attention.
But lawmakers stepping in to tell you can't have your phone.
You think that's getting a little close to those civil liberties?
Hey, can
civil
I have
rights
my
and
space?
maybe.
Can I have my space? Coming up, the young teacher who vanished in the Caribbean.
Her mother's long quest to find her and the rare memory condition she may suffer from. After this. So here's what to watch out for today. In the race for 2020, Washington Governor Jay Inslee is set to announce his plan to combat climate change, a focus of his campaign.
And Kirsten Gillibrand will campaign against Georgia's abortion ban and what she calls similar legislative attacks on women's health care, meeting with women, patients, and providers in Atlanta. Arguments to unseal documents in Empire actor Jussie Smollett's criminal case are scheduled today. And President Trump unveils a new immigration plan, calling for a shift to a predominantly merit-based system focused on allowing more high-skilled workers to enter the country.
You can watch that right here on ABC News Live. Plus, don't forget to tune into the debrief for an update on all our top stories and the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics.
Well, the mystery is deepening this morning around the disappearance of a young teacher in the Caribbean, and this is a really interesting story.
It is. She vanished just days after Hurricane Irma slammed the island of St. Thomas, but this isn't the first time she's disappeared. Here's ABC's Juju Chang.
It was a Category 5 hurricane, Irma, a storm unlike any the Caribbean paradise of St. Thomas had seen before.
It was in some ways a perfect storm of chaos. If someone's going to vanish from the island without any trace, it could have happened then.
And that's exactly what happened. 32-year-old Hannah Upp, a beloved teacher at a local Montessori school, had ridden out the storm, only to disappear 8 days later. What many people didn't know is that this was not the first time Hannah had disappeared. Almost 10 years before, Hannah went missing in New York City. She was found barely alive, floating face down in the New York harbor. No memory of where she'd been for the past 3 weeks. Doctors diagnosed her with dissociative fugue.
Dissociative fugue means that you have a period where suddenly you've lost your autobiographical memories, the memories that define you as you, but not necessarily other memories.
Elizabeth Vargas in A&E's The Untold Story, Vanished in Paradise, retraces Hannah's life with dissociative fugue and the days before she disappeared. In 2008, she left her New York City apartment to go running and then went missing.
She seemed to have vanished into thin air. 10 days later, she pops up at an Apple store, of all places.
Logging in on her own ID.
And security cam footage shows her being approached by a young man who knows her from school, saying, Hannah? You're Hannah, right? Aren't you missing? And she says, no, I'm not Hannah, and walks away.
So a person who has psychogenic fugue to people on the outside may look completely normal. They're doing things, they know how to do things, they understand the world at large, they don't appear to be distressed, they're just in an altered state.
The documentary has this recording of Hannah Upp after she was rescued. She's talking to a reporter in a New York City coffee shop.
It goes from like going for a run to like being in the ambulance. And for me that was like, what, 10 minutes past? But it was like 3 weeks. Obviously the hardest part is the period right after. Right. So you feel shame and you feel embarrassed and you feel guilt. Sure. All things that I've like definitely felt.
After her fugue, Hannah moved to Maryland and there had yet another episode.
Many people in her life believe she was looking to escape her past.
So in 2014, Hannah moved to the island oasis of St. Thomas, embracing a new set of friends who shared her passion for Zumba. But Hurricane Irma wreaked havoc on the island, and some of her friends say on Hannah too.
Everybody was stressed out, and she was certainly stressed out. And certainly the day before Hannah disappears, people noticed something was off. She seemed to be almost in a trance.
It's been almost 2 years since anyone's seen Hannah. Her mother has become a fixture on St. Thomas. She thinks it's possible that Hannah is still alive and is suffering from another fugue.
There are documented cases of fugue states lasting as long as 4 years.
Yeah. And that helps me to keep on going. It's never been an option to give up.
And hopes the answer to where her daughter is can be found here.
Do you think you'll ever know for sure, Barbara, what happened?
I can only tell you that hope is persistent, and many people join me in that hope.
I am so struck by when they talked about the first time that she went missing here in New York, and someone saw her in an Apple store and said, "Hey, is that you? Are you missing?" And she said, "No, I'm not Hannah." The fact that she could be missing and doesn't even know it. So frightening.
And watching her mother there, I believe that she's on that island. She will find her daughter.
Yep. Well, so yesterday we asked you to tell us what you thought was the sexiest accent in America. Someone commented and said my accent, so thank you very much. But most of you agreed that Texas takes the cake, but here are a few more. Rob from Pittsburgh says he's always loved the southern accent of American women.
Stand Up Now on Twitter says, Miami, baby. What's the matter with you?
Oh, that's what that is.
What's the matter with you?
That was good. We got one more vote from Minnesota. Becky says, y'all, it has to be North Carolina.
Y'all, it's got to be.
That's close to you, right?
Or South Carolina. Please keep sending us, at us. Is that what we say? That the kids say?
At me, bro.
At me, bro. Yeah. Just
at me, bro.
At me. Leave us some comments. We will throw yours up if it's good.
If it's good and nice. That's it for us. No mean tweets. See you tomorrow.
Friday.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.